Hello everyone, if you are in your 30s or 40s and thinking about learning art, you might be wondering, is it too late for me? Am I too old to start from scratch? I totally get it. Maybe you are in a job that doesn't fulfill you, but pursuing art feels like a dream with a lot of what-ifs. There's the financial stress, the fear of not being as competitive as people who started in their teens or 20s, the decision between going to art school or learning on your own, and the big question, can I actually make a living as an artist? My name is May, and I enrolled in the GDA and then MFA programs at Goldsmiths at the age of 37. In this video, I'm going to dive into all these concerns. We will talk about finances, career paths, and whether going to art school is necessary, or if teaching yourself from home is a better option. By the end, I hope you will have a clearer idea of whether entering the art world is the right step for you. If you are wondering whether it's too late to start learning art in your 30s or 40s, the answer is no, absolutely not. In fact, there are plenty of students at Goldsmiths who are in their 30s, 40s, or even older, so you definitely won't be alone. My best friend Kirsten, for example, enrolled in the MFA program in her 50s, and she's thriving. There are actually more advantages than drawbacks to starting your art journey as a mature student. For one, you are likely more determined and clear about your goals. You know what you are doing and have a stronger sense of your personal themes and artistic direction. It reminds me of the saying, 少年不识愁滋味，为赋新词强说愁. When you are young, you lack the life experience that adds depth to art, just as novelists need life experience to write great stories. With age, your ability to appreciate and critique art improves. You can more easily distinguish between works that are profound and those that are superficial. In critique sessions, you are also likely to be more resilient. Instead of taking suggestions personally, you can process feedback constructively, which only helps you grow as an artist. That being said, there are also a few challenges that come with starting later. One potential downside is that you might be more conservative or cautious in your approach to art. For example, if you are more introverted, you might wonder if you can still push the boundaries. Like becoming a performance artist, which often requires a bold public presence. It's not that introverts can't be successful in these areas, but as a mature student, you may have a more established sense of identity and comfort zone, which can make stepping into highly experimental or confrontational forms of art feel a bit more daunting. This might be something worth considering. I know what some of you might be thinking. I didn't start learning art in my teens or 20s, so am I at a disadvantage compared to those who did? Actually, in contemporary art, your concept, your theme, and your voice are always more important than technical mastery. And honestly, skills are something you can pick up quickly once you realize you need them. Take myself for example, I had zero experience in sculpture before starting my MFA, but thanks to YouTube tutorials and some hands-on guidance from workshop technicians, I've been able to make sculptures using a variety of mediums like wood, metal, ceramics, and casting. In fact, sometimes having too much technical training can actually hold you back creatively. I've seen this with some of my Chinese classmates who come from a traditional oil painting background. Their training was so strict, so focused on perfection, that it drained their passion and instinct. They've been taught how to paint so rigidly that now they don't even know how to start. One classmate in particular had all his materials laid out: stretched canvas, paints, brushes, everything was ready. But when I asked why he wasn't starting, he just kept saying, "I don't know what to paint." It reminds me of a story where a 7-year-old girl once asked her dad, who was an art school professor, "What do you do every day at work?" He replied, "I teach students how to paint." To which she responded, "So you mean these adults forgot how to paint?" Our creativity is always within us. It's just a matter of rediscovering it. Some of my classmates were even shocked to find that our school doesn't teach any technical skills. But I think that's because academic institutions today emphasize concept and theory far more than technique. So this leads to our next topic. Should you go to art school, or is it better to teach yourself at home? What you can really get from starting in an art school. There are plenty of successful self-taught artists these days, and as I mentioned earlier, you can learn a lot from the internet for free. Even if you enroll in an art school, there will still be many things you will need to figure out on your own. So what's the real benefit of going to school? I was actually kind of disappointed finding out there wasn't even a lot of formal academic events in our program. But soon I found myself quite busy with all kinds of artistic experiences, such as we have crit sessions twice a year where you present your work to tutors and classmates for critique. There's even a gallery crit in the first year where you have to team up with fellow students, find potential galleries to collaborate with, and organize a group show. This teaches you how to manage a show independently, just as you would as a professional artist. On top of that, there are essays that require you to spend considerable time researching and building your own conceptual framework. You also have to submit tutorial reports, which push you to investigate the series or artists or artworks discussed in tutorials, many of which turn out to be incredibly relevant and valuable to your art practice. All of this feedback, research, and reflection demands time, and before you even know it, you are constantly busy practicing in the workshops or in your studios, developing your ideas. That's what you actually do in art school. These academic tasks are designed to help you build a foundation for your work, offering critical feedback on your ideas, to the crucial part of how you really carrying out your thoughts. They don't teach. And you know what the reason is. Yes, it's because this is creating, and creating cannot be taught. In my opinion, I still recommend attending a good art school. We know that some art schools are more like a money machine. A genuine art program will challenge you to submit a 6,000 words essay to establish your conceptual framework, present your work for critique at least twice a year, and receive professional tutorials that encourage you to think beyond your own perspective, while staying connected to your subject. Overall, these experiences are invaluable in helping you learn how to carry out meaningful, well-developed work. However, if you can form or join a small group of people who provide critical feedback, have a clear sense of your subject, and are willing to do the research to deepen and solidify your topic while also committing to work consistently for several hours a day over an extended period, then being self-taught can absolutely make you an artist. Many of you might say, I do want to go to art school, but I can't afford the tuition and living expenses during that time. Yes, financial stress. That was also my biggest concern before I made my decision. Generally speaking, art schools and art departments are more expensive than others, which is understandable considering all the specialized workshops like woodwork, metalwork, casting, and 3D printing, blah blah blah, that are exclusively available to fine art students. For instance, the tuition for Goldsmith's MFA program is around £28,000 a year for international students, and that's not even factoring in accommodation and living expenses. If you are a home student, the tuition is much cheaper and you have the option to enroll part-time, which allows you to work while you study. Many of my local classmates have chosen this path to balance their finances. But for international students like me, it's more tricky. My plan was to use my savings first and then take out bank loans, meaning I'd have to work part-time to support my studies. If that wasn't enough, I was prepared to sell my apartment in China to cover everything. That was the plan. However, things didn't turn out that way. When I told my parents I wanted to quit my job as a customs officer and move to the UK to study art, they were completely against it at first. But when they learned that I was willing to sell my only apartment, something I had invested so much time and energy into, they understood how serious I was. Ultimately, they decided to support me financially. I was lucky. What I've learned from this is that when you are truly determined, the people around you often step up to help. The final and perhaps the most important question: what do you do for a living after graduation? Well, the reason we choose to pursue art in our 30s or 40s is simple. We love it, right? We want to keep making art. We want to live as an artist. It sounds both dreamy and difficult. At Goldsmiths, there's a professional development talk around graduation time where alumni are invited to share their experiences after finishing school and how they've continued working as artists. One thing I've learned from these talks is that most artists need a part-time job to financially support their artistic journey, especially early on. A very successful artist who has exhibited globally shared that it wasn't until 8 years after graduation that her art sales were enough to cover all her expenses. But don't let that scare you. If you have a solid artistic voice and consistently create compelling work, galleries and curators will notice you. And for those artists whose work isn't easily monetized, there are grants, funding opportunities, and institutional support available. The truth is, the world is always in need of good artists. In the art world, it's common knowledge that there simply aren't enough good artists. If you offer your creativity to the world, it will reward you in return. Beyond that, I've realized that many of the lessons I've learned in the art world can be applied to other areas too, like being a YouTuber. In both fields, you have to find something meaningful you want to express, your true passion. In art, this is called building your framework, and in YouTube, this is called finding your niche. Both require developing the skills needed to convey your ideas. In fine art, that could be painting, sculpting, or printing skills, and in YouTube, it's scripting, shooting, and editing. And in both fields, feedback is crucial for growth, whether it's critiques from the art world or the algorithm, view counts, and comments in YouTube. That's exactly why I'm creating YouTube videos alongside making art. After graduation, it's all part of the same creative journey. As we talked about today, the questions of whether it's too late to study art from scratch, whether to go to school or study at home, the financial stress during study, and how to make a living as an artist are all significant concerns for those starting this journey in their 30s or beyond. As we wrap up our discussion, it's essential to reflect on the insights from the 100-year life, Living and Working in an Age of Longevity by Lynda, Gratton, and Andrew Scott. This book reminds us that we are living in an era where increased life expectancy is reshaping how we think about careers, education, and even retirement. Gone are the days when a single career path defined our lives. Instead, we find ourselves in a world where transitions are not only common but necessary. The authors propose that as we age, we are likely to embrace multiple careers and return to education at various stages of our lives. This means that it's never too late to pursue your passions, be it art or any other endeavor. In this context, learning art later in life become not just a possibility, but a valuable opportunity for personal growth, creativity, and fulfillment. So if you've been contemplating whether to take that leap, remember, the journey of lifelong learning is one of the most enriching paths you can take. And your artistic voice is waiting to be expressed, no matter your age. I hope this video has answered a lot of questions regarding starting learning art at the age of 30 plus and beyond. If you have other questions, please leave me a comment. I will try my best answering it. Thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, maybe you will also be interested in this video talking about how to find passion and identify it. See you next time.